Good afternoon, everyone. This is LQ from LQ's Watercolor Studio. This is lesson number 3. I've tried a little bit different setup today, so hopefully this will work better. What we're going to talk about today is the different weights of paper. There's 300 pounds, which I won't be demonstrating at all because that's very expensive paper. That's more for the professionals. There's 140 pound, there's 90 pound, and then there's copy paper. So we have 140 pound, we have 90 pound, and we have copy paper. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick here, and we're going to draw like the stem to a flower. So we come up here, stem to a flower. Let's make this one a little bit bigger. And here we have a stem to a flower. Now, typically, the heavier the paper, which 140 pound is heavier, you would use more water, and in 90 pounds, less water, and in the copy paper, very little water at all. So what we're going to do first is we're going to wet the stem, flowers up here, wet the stem, and we're going to wet the stem. Now we're going to add color. So stems are typically either brown or blue, green, and I make the green by mixing the yellow and the blue. So let's get some yellow over here and blue. Remember to wash out your brush in between change of colors. So we've made a green, but we're going to start with yellow in here because I want you to see how the colors mix on the paper. So here it needs to be pretty wet because we want it to move. Here it needs to be pretty wet, and here it needs to be wet to move, but it's hard on the copy paper. So let's put in some blue. Now I want you to tilt your paper in any direction. Just touch it and watch it move. Maybe we need a little bit more yellow in there. I'm going to tap my brush, grab some yellow. Okay, that's 140 pound. That's typically what I paint on most of the time. Okay, now let's look at the 90 pound watercolor paper. All right, let's put some color in here. We're going to move, we're going to tilt the paper. Let's add a little bit more yellow. And there we go. Watch it mix and make its own color. You can dab it in places just for effect. And we will use this in the painting today. So hopefully I won't run out of time. So now we need to add some blue to the copy paper. All right, the copy paper, it will work. But copy paper, you really typically need to use much less water. So we're going to put a little bit more yellow in here. And while I have you here, I'm going to tell you, you can find supplies almost anywhere. If you don't have watercolor supplies at home, you may have one of the old children's sets, you know, the pen sets, or you can find them at stores like Walmart, Stop and Shop, grocery stores, pharmacies, Joann Fabrics, Ocean State Job Lot around here. Many different stores have art supplies now. So if you notice, it blended and it made its own colors and it did its own thing on each and every one of the papers. So for getting started or for learning about watercolor, you can use any student grade paints. You can use any type of paper. Just see if you like what you can do with watercolor and where it will take you. Now, you also don't need expensive brushes to start with. You can get the cheap, inexpensive brushes at any of these stores. You can also use other objects to use. All right, let's take the 140 pound. You can use a paintbrush. You can use a toothbrush, all right? So here, you can do all sorts of fun things with a toothbrush. You can make grasses. You can use a sponge. All right, let's dampen the sponge somewhat because right now it's very hard. Dampen the sponge. go into a color and just move it around. See what you get. Let's go into another color here. Fun things to do. Another thing you can use is a stick. I just pulled this stick out of the backyard. You get it with some paint on it. It may take a lot of paint because the stick, look at those fine grasses it makes. You can also do branches. Get some brown here. Okay, now with that said, what we're going to paint today is we're going to paint a tree. Now a tree is very simple, and again, these are not lessons in how to necessarily draw. This is more in learning how to control watercolor. So we're going to start and we're going to go basically a straight line, but at the bottom of the tree, it's always a little bit bigger than it is at the top. So we're going to leave an area up here for the branches. So this is what we're going to start with. We do the same thing on, this is the 90 pound, this is 140 pound. So we're going to start the same way. Okay, if you want to, you could put in a few branches, but it's not necessary. You can leave that and just use the paint, and we'll go from there. So what we're going to start with today is I am going to start with a flat brush. Now, we've been using mostly the round brushes, which are round. They come to a point, especially if they come to a point. Sometimes they don't come to a point until they're wet. For example, this one. So here, it has a nice point. It comes to a point when it's wet. But the flat brush, we're going to start with the flat brush because we can put a lot more water, a lot more paint, a lot quicker. So we're going to start with the flat brush, and we're going to go in here where we made the trunk of the tree, and we're going to paint water. Just paint with water. Okay? If you tilt your head sideways, you can see where the water has gone. All right, let's do this one over here. And we don't really want to start to put in color until the sheen on the paper has disappeared. Now, the sheen is going to disappear a lot faster on the 90 pound than on the 140 pound because it takes a while for the water to soak into 140 pound. And we don't want too much water on the 90 pound. So I still have a little bit of sheen on mine over here. And in the meantime, what you can do is you can go in and you can start mixing your colors. Now, what I usually like to do is I like to have a paintbrush that I mix the colors. So for the tree itself, you're probably going to want a brown, grayish color, but I like to start with something bright. And we always want to keep in mind where the sun is coming from. So I'm going to say the sun is coming from this side. So sometimes you want to make a little arrow just so you remember up at the top, sun is coming from here. So this side is going to be the brightest side. So we're going to put some yellow on this side. Now, if you have something like an orangey color, it's like a burnt sienna or even a yellow ochre or something like that, a little bit of change in color. We just want to go in and dab that in places. Let it mix and do its own thing on the paper. Whenever you can let it mix on the paper, you'll get a much more vibrant color. Then I have a brown. This one is raw umber. And we're going to come in over here with the raw umber because that's the dark side. This is the sunny side. All right, so I'm going to put another color here. This is quinacedron gold. So we're just going to put that in. I want them to kind of mix. Now pick up your paper and see if you can get it to mix. 90 pound doesn't do as much as 140 pound is. But see how it's making its own little thing here? That's what you want to see. That's what you want to see watercolor do. Okay, that's good. I'm going to set that aside for a moment. Now let's go to the watercolor paper. Now let's say that the sun is coming from this side. So we're going to start with a light color over here, and we're going to start with the yellow ochre this time. I'm going to start with yellow ochre this time and go right up the edge. Keep inside the lines, but you don't have to because trees get raggedy, so you can kind of go outside of edges. It makes them look more natural. All right, so we have yellow ochre. Now we're going to have a little bit brighter color, change of color. You can touch it in spots. Okay, now we go back in with the raw umber. Just touch it in spots. You can always turn your paper around. Okay. Touch it in spots, pick it up, let it move. Let the paint do its own thing. Touch it again in other spots. Get it to moving. Okay, now we're going to set that one aside. Now, we're going to do the leaves. We'll do the branches afterwards. We're going to do leaves. Okay. Again, I'm going to use my round brush. And I'm going to start, the sun is coming on this side. Okay, so I'm going to start with my yellow. I'm going to mix that yellow. And you don't want it too wet, but and I'm using the side of my brush. Notice how I'm just using the side of the brush, not the point. Use the side, and don't fill in all the spaces. Leave some whites. Okay. Now we're going to need color change due to the sun. Now go in with a little bit warmer yellow, like a raw umber, or, sorry, that was me. Keep moving the video there. Hopefully I'm still in position here. So we have a little bit other yellow. This is yellow ochre or raw sienna. Now let's go in with some blue. We don't want too much on this side because this is where the sun is coming from. So most of the dark color is going to be on this side. Now, I like mixing a little bit of a color as well because I want to see green in here, okay? I want to see some green. We can go back in with a darker color in a little bit to shade, to make it look real. But I want to see, so I have yellow and blue that I mix. And it's good to keep this side very bright. We have some lower hanging branches here. And we're going to go right off the paper here. Using the side of the brush. Leave some white spots in between. Trees are not solid. They have all sorts of branches that hang out in all different directions. Okay. And when you're happy with that, set it aside, and we'll continue with that one after this is the 90 pound, so now we're going to go to the 140 pound. All right, sun is coming from this side. So we're going to start on this side with any of the yellows. There are warm yellows, and this is a warm yellow. The other one was a cool yellow. Now I'm going to transition a little bit to a kind of a medium green. I just mixed a little bit of the yellow in with the blue and green on my palette. The underside of the leaves are always going to be a little bit darker than the upper side. Okay. And now for this side, I'm going to mix I'm going to make a green on my palette by mixing the yellow and the green. A little brighter than I want. I want it to look a little more natural, so I just pick up a little bit more brown. And a little bit drier brush is great because it gives you more the effect of leaves than if it's too damp. Okay, I'm going to set the 140 pound paper aside. Then we're going to do branches. And this particular method is called wet into dry. The paper is dry. The trunk was wet into wet because we wet the trunk. We did not wet anything on the tree, on the leaf area. So now if you have a rigger of some sort, which is a very thin round brush, you can use that. And we want to make a few branches. And we're going to say that a branch comes out here, and it's a big tree, so it's got to be a bigger size branch. But you don't want to continue. You want to break it up because the leaves cover up a portion of the branch. All right? So we have branches coming down. And remember, wiggly shapes are better. Mixing a little bit of blue with that. Okay, I have no idea what the time frame is on this. I hope I don't run out of time. It doesn't like it when I am too long. All right. I'm going to set this one aside and work on the other one. Now, I am not going to do all of the branches on this one because I want to show you some fun stuff with the grass. So we're going to start the branches. You can use any of the browns, raw umber or sepia. So we're going to say some branches are in here They go in between. All right, one more branch. And this is a big one. You can also use your fingers. All right, I want to show you some fun stuff with the grasses. So we'll just have a mix of the greens that we have at the base, and this is more or less dry brush, so you have a little bit of paint in the brush, and make sure it's not too damp, and then you can do this and just push down, drag it up, push down, drag it up. Okay, another fun thing to do is all right, it's more or less solid here. So now we take our fingernail, or you can take your branch and add fun stuff to it as well. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you had a good time, and be sure and hit the like button, and I will try to do more things in the future if you would like. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye now.